All right. So, you guys, we're so happy to be here with you. We tried to go on Instagram Live on Davis's Instagram, and it was just going in and out. So, there was a lot of drama. I tried to re enter like 10 times. And right when I got going, like, woo, like it went off. So, we're going to share some quotes with you guys today. Davis had the idea of coming to the Instagram Live with some quotes that have resonated with us and what they kind of meant to us. And so we were starting to talk through that, and we shared some things. So we're just going to start over and have a little video here for you guys. So Davis, you want to say hi?
Hi. Yeah, that was fun. But yeah, and Sue over at Instagram, you did start with the most amazing, well-known quote ever. So Marianne Williamson.
Yeah.
So yeah, please share that with us again, and let's spread some light and some inspiration for everybody to shine. Such a
I
good
love
quote.
it. So you guys, for those of you who are like around our age, if you're 50-ish, you've heard this quote probably. If you're somebody who's ever been like interested in self-help or self-development or spirituality, you've probably heard this quote. But for many of you, this may be the first time. So I'm going to go ahead and read the whole quote. And many of you might recognize the name. Marianne Williamson actually ran for president this year, or last time, or in the primary, I guess. And there were so many people, like my husband and just people in my life who were like, who in the world is Marianne Williamson? Like newscasters were like, I've never heard of this woman before. And I'm like, she has the best quote of all time.
Totally.
So anyway, she's written a lot of books, and she wrote the book Return to Love, and she's just really good. So this quote, here's the quote. So our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, and fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine, as children do. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It's not just in some of us, it's in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. So there's so much in there, almost like line by line. You could take it as a separate quote and love it up. I mean, it's so good. But for me, this is what Great Big Yes is all about. It's about, the foundation, understanding that you are a child of God.
Yeah.
There is a plan and a purpose for your life. You were meant to shine. And I think it's really important that she says there's nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. As a coach, I see a lot of women getting smaller and shrinking. And this goes along with Glennon's book, Untamed, that I just read, and just the conversation in general. I haven't read Jen Hatmaker's new book, but it's about being fierce and on fire. And
Fierce and on fire.
Fierce and on fire. And that's what Great Big Yes is all about. And what I think my goal in life is to get everybody to shine their light. So
yes,
it doesn't mean we all have to be the same. In fact, it means you have to be uniquely you. Like, I don't want to get to the end of my life and be like, okay, well, I gave you a lot. I don't want God to be like, well, you had this, that, and the other, but you still were acting like your neighbor so-and-so. Or, you've heard the story where people like, I don't want to get there and say, it's not like God's going to be like, well, you were okay, but so-and-so was better. Because they have something completely different. They have a total different race to run. So this to me is like kind of the starting point of all the motivational quotes for me, because it kind of covers it all. It covers the foundation of who are you not to be? Brilliant, gorgeous, talented, and fabulous. You are a child of God. And so it goes with how I'm feeling right now about, like, it's urgent that we all become what we were born to become. And we can only do that by allowing ourselves to really shine, like to not be afraid of offending people, to not be afraid of looking better than people. Like, you know, there's this lie that the enemy wants to tell us is like, who do you think you are?
Yeah.
Who do you
Big time. Big time. You know, go hide in the dark. Don't shine your light. You know,
Yep.
don't make other people uncomfortable with your light. And I think that's what, that when I hear that quote over and over and over, I don't think there's ever a time it doesn't strike me and like hit me, you know, because I think what it's doing is it's telling the fundamental truth of why we're even breathing air, you know, and so that's big, like we're at a time, like you said, it's urgent. We have shine. So for me, like when I think about what does it mean when I'm shining my own light, like, you know, we were talking earlier on Instagram Live too about Glennon and Alicia Keys interview that I watched, and just that being yourself. So I know that's something that I think I work on daily, but for you, like, what does it mean to shine your light?
Girl.
It's a big question, isn't it?
This is like the best topic.
Yeah, no, it is. It is. Don't make me while I get comfortable in this weird chair.
I know. And the lighting's kind of weird in here.
It's weird. It's weird.
Whatever,
Yeah.
but we have to have this conversation.
We have to.
It's urgent. And I feel like right now in the world, people are having this conversation, and being home in isolation, we have a lot of time to think and maybe even reevaluate the job that you can't go to right now. Is that something you want to go back to? The habits that you had before that you, maybe some of them you can't do anymore, are those something you want to continue? Right? So people are starting to ask these questions. There's like a deeper reckoning. And for me, I just feel like encouraging people to say yes to what God has for them. So for me, it's not just like we can have good ideas and we should follow them, but I believe that in every life, there are God ideas. There are ideas that come to you that are visions that the Lord has for you. Now, you might not see a vision and you might not hear God's voice talking to you, but you feel led in certain directions. And the world has taught us to silence that voice. The world has taught us that, you know, fit in, conform, be good, don't make any waves, and don't make people uncomfortable.
And holy cow, follow the rules.
Follow the damn rules. Like, read the manual and nobody's going to get hurt.
Right.
And that's why I love that Byron Katie quote that said, you know, don't be careful, you could hurt yourself. And so often we're being careful and we're getting smaller so we don't offend anybody. And in the process, we're hurting ourselves. And then we get to the end of our lives and we take a look back and we go, gosh, I wish I would have, whatever it is. And that to me is absolutely unacceptable. So I feel like my mission right now, and just in general, is encouraging people to say yes. So it's overcoming fear, which is a big part of it. And finding clarity. And I know you're always talking about like living out loud and like rising above the noise, right? How do people find clarity in this world to even know who they are? And I think a lot of women, when I'm coaching them, they're like, well, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. But the truth is, a lot of times we do know.
Oh, yeah.
We're just afraid to do it.
Yeah.
And so we spend years and decades preparing when really we're procrastinating.
Oh, see, now that's a good quote. We need to write that down. Please write that down, Sue. What?
Tweet it. No.
Well, yeah, but say it again. We spend
We spend years and decades preparing when really what we're doing is procrastinating.
See, that's a good one. Yeah.
And so I've always like, I mean, even the other day, you and I were talking and you were saying you were following the energy and you were like, well, I don't know. And I was like, no, you know. The question is, why aren't you doing it?
Yeah.
And so I think that's all of us, if we're honest, there are things that we are called to do. Now, sometimes it can be really subtle, like something we're supposed to say.
Yeah. Yeah.
it doesn't always have to be like a career or an entrepreneur,
No,
but it's
no.
bravery in the moment to do what you know you're called uniquely to do. Because here's the thing, no one else has ever been you. So I often talk to people when I'm coaching them, they're like, well, I don't know, the books have been written. It's like, yeah, books have been written. But the book that you're going to write hasn't been written. Or
Right.
people are like, well, I don't know. I mean, there's already a lot of coaches. It's like, yeah, but no, like certain clients are waiting for you to coach them.
Right.
And
Right.
trusting that whatever you're, if you're obeying and getting, and I don't like that word obey because it makes it seem like drudgery almost, like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, if I obey, I doesn't like, again,
How
getting,
about listen, I guess. Yeah.
yeah, and
Or
listen,
honor.
follow, honor, exactly. So anyway,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that answered your question, but that is my thing right now. And I want to add one more quote, and then I'm gonna let you totally go and riff. But the one quote by Carl Jung that Glennon put in her book that I think is so good, and it's definitely on this wavelength. He said that the greatest burden a child can bear is the unlived life of a parent.
Oh, yeah, that's what we were talking about. Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
for me, like encouraging women to say yes, it's not just about us. It's about us, and we need to live our full, abundant life. But it's about our kids and our legacy and the ripple effect and generations that come after us. Like, this is no joke. Like, you have an opportunity to encourage everybody by the way that you follow your own heart. And so,
And act on it.
and act on it. And so when we don't, when we act like, well, I'm just here for my kids. My goal in life is just that my kids are going to be happy. I'm like, way to shoot
What?
low.
What? Yeah. Yeah.
No. You can be a really good mom, and live out the calling in your life. You have to live out the calling in your life, in fact, to be a good mom. So in Glennon's book, she talks a lot about like how the other thing I wrote down is, and this is really interesting. This one, she said, my children don't need me to save them. They need to watch me save myself.
Yes. 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 And we all need saving. You know, we all, nobody lives the perfect life. It just doesn't exist.
Nope.
It doesn't exist. But yeah, that's so good. That's so good.
Bravery and courage and encouragement is what my calling is. But I think that overcoming the fear and giving people permission to actually live the life that they're here for. I think sometimes people are like, wait, I can do that?
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah. And
Yeah,
they just need more voices of women saying that they can do that.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm fired up about right now.
I love Carl Jung. I mean, he's, sorry about that. He's, you know, he's where a lot of, where the shadow work comes from, everything like he has so many quotes, you know, about our darkness and our light, and, you know, and loving and accepting all of the dark places about ourselves. You know, the beach ball's coming up, right? Yep. So that is very much Carl Jung. But, yeah, I'm so sorry. I'm sitting in a chair that's not comfortable, so I'm trying to sit still, but it's not comfortable. But those quotes are so good. You picked some doozies. My gosh, you picked some real good ones.
There's no time to play around. This is
yeah, no. You know, I think for me, you know, again, having kids too and having daughters, it's easy. If you ever really want to get really honest with yourself, you just simply ask, well, what would you tell your daughter to do right now? Yep. You know, what would you do? What would you do? And you know, I think I grapple a lot with why did I choose to listen to someone else? Like you know, we can go back, you know, and say, I knew that wasn't right then. I knew it wasn't, but, and Glennon today was actually talking about when she was talking with Alicia Keys about how she actually has women who she has such good friends who go balls out in life. You know, they are, you know, on fire, shining out there in the world. Then they come home and they shrink down. you know, and kind of wondering like, what's that about? You know, whereas in our homes is where we should be able to shine the most, right? But I think that's where everything comes up. But anyway, so let's see if I can actually find, that's so weird. Right when I opened up my book, Glennon Doyle's page came up, but see, this wasn't even going to be one I was going to share, but I have to share it. I think it's meant to be. I have a lot of things to prove to myself. One is that I can live my life fearlessly.
Ooh, I love that. Who
Yeah.
said that?
Oprah, of course.
OG.
And, you know, I think that the biggest thing now is to just be able to, for me, being able to shine is to be able to do this, like to be able to like not worry about like what people are going to think about my creativity, you know, my voice, everything, you know, and know that if people do have a problem, you know, sure, okay, I'll look at it if it affects me, but at the same time, it's more about them, right? It's more about them. And I think that this whole time that we're in right now, I think the biggest invitation is trust yourself.
Yes.
Trust yourself. Like we are now robots. And you know, it's interesting. We won't get on this, but this one particular thing happened that I posted on Facebook because I think everybody needs to cast a much larger net on this whole thing. But I was watching in the background yesterday, the day before, Jenna and Hoda were doing an old interview with Joan London, and they were talking about getting older, how more people are isolated and all that good stuff. And Joan London said, studies show that isolation is as unhealthy as smoking 13 cigarettes a day.
Oh.
So with that being so hold on one second, Sue, because I'm going to have to plug my computer in because my battery's getting low. And I'll finish this thought and then I'll go grab the thing. But, and I thought that we really need to look at that, right? And then I posted it and somebody popped back on and said, why would you listen to a journalist? And I wrote back, she's citing studies. And I would have to ask you, why are you listening to journalists?
Right.
So the thing is I think that we have access. This is the age of information. There's too much knowledge. Too much information, not enough education. Like that's huge. And so I think that right now, I think inside of all of this, the bravest thing and the courageous thing is to trust yourself.
To think for yourself.
You've got to think for yourself and trust yourself. And when I am in that space, that's the shit that makes me shine, because to be honest with you, because if it's a mistake, it's mine. It belongs to me and I get to learn from that.
Yes.
You know, I can live in victimhood my whole life and say, well, they told me to do it. But if I get to trust myself, then I actually get to end my life and say, yeah, I freaking lived out loud, and probably God will give me a big old high five.
That's right. I love that. I love it. True. I mean, there's so much misinformation out there. I think there's not enough education, like you said, and there's not enough wisdom. You know, what happened to, like, I know it's a churchy word, but the word discernment comes to mind for me so often.
Discernment's one of my favorite words. Keep talking. I've just got to grab my thing, okay?
Yeah, I mean, we just have to be able to discern, knowing what we know with our wisdom and our knowledge and our education and our experience, what makes sense to us, and we need to be able to trust that. And I think there's a lot of reasons why we might not trust ourselves, but usually it has to do with we were told not to. And this is interesting because Jen Hatmaker was saying that when she was growing up in the church, they basically told her, you can't trust your mind, you can't trust your heart. And so she took those things to heart. And as a grown-up now has to learn to trust herself again. And I'm just wondering how many people also had that experience as children, really kind of being told, not subtly, but overtly, that they shouldn't trust themselves.
I think every single one of us do. Like, we're always told not to trust ourselves, and that, think about, you know, it's the constant, well, what will so-and-so think? My lighting's going to be really bad, but life will go on.
I remember too, like when I was in the Catholic Church, like people would like rely on what a priest would tell them to do or what the Pope would tell them to do. And I always was like, I don't really get that. Like, how would they know what you're supposed to do? So I think inside of myself, I've always trusted myself, but I do think that there's a good girl syndrome that I have,
Mm-hmm.
and that people have, that is about people pleasing. And so you go, wait, I don't want to rock the boat. Like, it's not worth it to say something, or you just don't want to be like, I had older brothers and they were always like, hey, nobody likes to tattletale,
Yeah.
different messages that kind of came in where you're like, all right, I'm just going to be cool. I'm not going to say anything.
Right.
But then it starts to eat away at you, and you really have to have your voice. You really have to live authentically with what you're thinking, or you'll go nuts. And I think that's why a lot of women do.
I think you're right. And just like that quote that, just building on these 4 quotes that we've thrown out there, right, is just knowing that we have to look at our biggest fears. Like everybody has their fear, right? Like if I do this, what will happen, right? And the thing is what I have found is that you're going to meet that fear regardless. If you, it's like, I'm going to people please, I'm going to do whatever he wants because I don't want to be alone, right? That's just an example. So I'm going to give up my voice, everything, because I don't want to be alone. Well, guess what? In the end, you end up being alone and without anything. So how about if it just so happens you are your authentic self and he leaves you? Well, you're alone, but you're really not alone because you have yourself.
Own it. Like,
yes.
And
that's just an example.
Yeah.
Whether it's a job, whether it's a friendship, whether it's a partner, whether it's anything, it's like, who are you in it? And again, the worst case scenario might end up manifesting, but who are you going to be if that happens?
And I remember my dad telling me, something was going on with him, and he said, you know what, honey, it's okay, because I can look at myself. He says, I lay my head down peacefully on the pillow every night, and I can look at myself in the mirror and be proud.
Yeah. It's a couple of things like kind of stick out to me, and this stuff is kind of coming up more and more for me, especially like during this time, getting older, all of that stuff. By the way, I'm back in that uncomfortable chair, so just bear with me.
We're doing a lot of moving.
I know, because, well, first of all this running I'm doing, my muscles are killing me, and I'm in such an uncomfortable chair. So whatever. Okay. I'm going to try to stop moving. But a couple of times, well, a few times in my life, and it's all come from men, by the way, that it's okay to tell the truth. Just, you don't have to tell all the truth. Like, also I was told you need to be a little less Davis.
Oh no. No.
What?
That's just a no.
What?
Bye.
Yeah, be a little less Davis. My ex-husband actually said to me once, you just need to be a little less you when you write those blogs.
No.
The
world needs you.
Yeah.
No.
You need to be a little less you. Okay. I remember exactly where I was driving down the road when he said that to me. You need to be a little less you. And then I would get comments like, my God, Davis, thank you for being so vulnerable and bearing your soul. It spoke to me. Like, and all I have to say to that is, how about you be a little less you and we'll be good.
Yeah. He just doesn't get it.
And he doesn't have to. And I think that's the whole point is it's about me. It's about me, and what you think of me is none of my business.
That's right.
Another quote, right?
Another quote. Love that quote.
Yep. So I'm on a pure mission now. This is a little unnerving. Like I'm kind of making a decision at this point too that I'm not going to go to any stores that require masks. I'm not going to do it. There's stores that don't require. Those are, again, this is one of those things people need to throw a wider net and really learn what breathing stuff back in will actually do to your health. Mm-hmm. So, but again, if I'm stuck in that situation, that's just one of those things where I'm going to trust myself that I'm not wearing a mask, and I'm going to gravitate towards store that don't, our Walmart doesn't require it. Will I be respectful? Yes. But see, I'm going to trust me on this.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of, those are those little small things during the day. It doesn't have to be a big, I trust myself. Oh, I'm going to quit this job tomorrow and I'm going to start a sandwich cafe. You know, it's as simple as, when I walk out that door, who am I going to trust?
That's right. Right. It doesn't have to be some major life decision.
No.
Day-to-day minutia, really, that this can be so powerful. And I think that's where we kind of give up our power over and over again. And
Little by little, every day.
And then we don't realize it. And one day we wake up and you're like, who the hell is that in the mirror? Like, I don't recognize that person. I don't know why I'm doing what I'm doing, that kind of thing.
Then you have to turn on your TV to figure out who you got to be. Right?
Oh, yes. And it's so confusing and changes and all the time. And,
yeah. Or you got to go to work to figure out who you got to be. You know, you've got to wake your kids up to see who you got to be that day. And I think what's really big here is the big awakening is what is it that makes us shine? Because, to go to the original quote, if I shine, without even saying it, you get permission to shine, and you get permission to shine. And next thing you know, there's just, everybody is shining more than they're hiding. And why would I want to live a life that I'm not gravitating towards people who, you know, let me shine like you do, you know, like your group does, everybody. And I feel like that's the biggest responsibility. And to go back to that Carl Jung quote is I want my girls to be like, okay, I've seen her not shine and I've seen her shine. I think I want to see the shine, and for them to actually know that I lived my life in front of them.
Yes, they know who you are.
Yes.
They know what makes you come alive.
Yes. The good, the bad, the ugly, the great, right? That then when they walk through it in their lives, because we all walk through things in lives. Listen, you can think that people don't, but everybody does. I mean, it's called being human. But to actually let them know that, hey, this is just part of life. Look, you're going to get through it. And guess what? On the other side, you're going to shine brighter.
Yes. I love, love, love that. It made me think of a quote too, when you were talking about, you know, you have to look to the news to see who you should be. I was talking about this in Team Yes, but it was like, we were talking about how, Jasmine Star was saying this, you know, you're going to offend people just by being you. Like, somebody could be offended that I have blonde hair. Somebody could be offended that, I don't know, whatever. And so the goal isn't to not offend people. In fact, that's what's holding us back so much. And I think that's why that Marianne Williamson quote, I love the part where she's saying, you know, shrinking, there's nothing enlightened about that. Nothing. Like, that's not enlightened. But what Jasmine said that I thought was so interesting is she said, lukewarm is forgettable.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's not that I want to go out in the streets and offend people, no. But I realize that there's people I've known for 30 years who I've never spoken honestly to.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, you know, that's not on them.
No.
That's on me.
Yep.
And so I'm like, wait, what? Like, why? You know, what am I, you know, and it's because I wanted to get along. I didn't want to offend anybody. And just lukewarm is forgettable. And for me, it's like, I don't want to be lukewarm anymore. And maybe it has something to do with midlife too. And just the pandemic, all these things. But it's kind of like, I don't really care what you think of me. You know, it's like, whatever.
Well, whatever. And how about stop spending all your energy deciding on how you think about me, and go put a mirror up in your face and say, well, what do I think about me? Right.
Like, and also, like, these people, it's never somebody who's like above you that criticizes you. It's always people below you. And it's like always people who are not creating. It's always people who are not in the arena. And that's another great quote, right?
Oh, that arena, yeah, it's from, one of the presidents, but
Yeah.
but Brene Brown. Oh, that is one of
I'm
my
gonna look it up
favorites.
right now and read it to you.
Yes, that's one of my ultimate favorites, and that's how I
It's a
feel.
Roosevelt quote. It's
Okay, yes, because it's like, you're not in the arena with me. Shut up.
right? Okay, so ready?
Yeah,
So
yes.
it's Theodore Roosevelt called The Man in the Arena. It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes up short again and again. It's going to make me cry because there is no effort without error and shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least he fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither knew victory nor defeat.
Oh, oh,
And that's what I mean. It's so urgent. We can't get to the end of our lives and be people who never knew like the deep emotions and the victories and the defeat. And yes, there's going to be mistakes. There's going to be shortcomings. There's going to be errors. Who
yeah.
cares? It's all part of it.
It's all part of it. Yeah, either get in the arena with me or zip it. Like, that's the biggest thing. Like, yeah, and I actually want to be in the arena. I want to be in the arena, and I want to be with people who are in the arena, because that's called being human. That is the worthy cause.
Yes.
That is putting ourselves out there so we can dust off and shine, right? Like, it's so good. It's so good. And just reminding ourselves of these quotes, like, the thing is if you think about it, everything is a skill. Like, shining is a skill, being courageous is a skill, everything is a skill. Believe it or not, even being negative is a skill, but unfortunately it becomes such a habit at such a young age that it just seems like second nature, right?
Yes.
Like, victimhood and second nature, and our TVs blared at us, our everything blares it at us, like, see, everything's this. And it's like, so now we have to rebuild those skills to just bring the light out, right? Just like the moon and the sun, they're dark when they need to be, they're light, but that's exactly it. Every morning we start anew with light.
I love it. And did you ever hear the quote about the lighthouse? It's like the lighthouse doesn't look around and ask for permission to shine.
No.
I love that.
Neither does the moon, neither does the sun. And we're all part of it. And I love it. And God, those quotes. See, I knew this would be so good, because it is just engaging in those and saying them out loud and reading them and like feeding more into it.
So we're going to post this video, and then I want people to share their favorite quote. Like, if people have a favorite quote, they could just put it in the comments, share. We want to hear your quotes. We want to talk to you about your quotes and what they mean to you and how that's resonated with you. And here's the other thing I had said at the beginning of the Instagram live, before we go. I think it's important. Glennon said this, that when men write something, we ask, is the work worthy? Like, is the book worthy? But when women write things, often we ask, is the woman worthy?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think as we're kind of addressing writing and quotes and things, the way things have resonated with us, we have to take a good, honest look at ourselves and think, have we completely shut out certain writers or certain thinkers because we think they don't fit some agenda that we think they need to fit in order to be worthy? Because the truth is, we're all worthy and we're all meant to shine, and we all have something to say. And so I've heard, who's that poet? It's like Rilke or something, someone who people are always, Rumi.
Yeah.
People are always saying, and then I've heard somebody say, oh, that he was a Muslim. And it's like,
okay.
So? Right?
What's that got to do with the price of beans in China?
But we discount complete thing, like all this world of thought and imagination and wisdom, because it doesn't fit what we think, this weird box that we've put ourselves in. And I'm over it. I'm completely over it. If you look at my bookshelves, I like, you know, I love Jesus, but I've got every book about yoga, every self-development person, all different religions. I mean, I have everything, because
the common thread is humanity.
Yes. The more I know, the wiser I am. And we're never going to
cast your net. Yes. Cast your net.
Yes.
So too many of us are throwing out a fishing line when we need to cast a net.
Ooh, I love that.
Oh, that's good, huh?
Write it down. Write it down. Let's tweet this.
Okay. Hold on. Yes.
That used to always bug me when Oprah would be like, tweet. Like she'd be talking.
Tweetable. Tweet.
Tweetable. It's like, oh my gosh. However, her whole everything on the Super Soul Sunday is tweetable.
Oh my God. I turn it on Sundays and I'm like, okay, hold on. I rewind it. I'm like, oh, okay, hold on.
I mean, so this discussion and this like whole thing is like my jam. Like I love this so much.
Me
and
too.
I know so many people do. And it's not to just sit though and think about them, you know, and I think there are times where we want to do that. We want to just kind of absorb. But for me, especially as a coach, it's all about like, okay, now what are you going to do? Like, how can you take action? Because what Marianne Williamson said isn't for Marianne Williamson. It's for me. It's for you.
Yes. Yeah. Oh my
God.
God,
and that's why it resonates so deeply.
Oh, it's the truth. It's the truth. The light is the truth.
Amen.
The truth. Yeah.
All right. Love you.
Okay. All right. Love you. And all right. We'll pull it all together. Instagram and Facebook. All right. Bye.
Bye.